Quintessentials, hello. Today I want to talk to you about prenups. I've been speaking to my girls for the past couple of months, and this topic of should you get a prenup, should you decide to get married, and why is it important to get a prenup. So today it's just going to be high level. I'm no lawyer. I don't know anything about matrimonial or civil union law. But I think it's important that as entrepreneurs, as businesswomen, we need to really plan ahead. We need to think about our future. And if you've got assets, as long as you're a living, breathing person, I think it's important to self-preserve and it's important to plan ahead. So this video is going to just be high-level research that I did on my own, but I would love to have an invited guest, a lawyer, that can talk us through the intricacies of a prenuptial agreement. But let's get into it. What do you need to prepare when drawing up a prenuptial agreement, and why is it important as a businesswoman or as any woman to have a prenup? Let's begin with the definition. What is a prenup? A prenup is a contract between two people, you and your partner, the person that you intend on marrying. It is a legal binding document that is intended to sort out your financial matters in the case of a death or in the case of divorce. If you have assets, property, liabilities, then you definitely need to have a prenup. This is simply smart financial planning, and it is definitely something that you should be discussing with your partner seriously before entering into marriage. A prenup also helps you to decide how your inheritance is passed on to your children, and if you're marrying someone that has children from previous relationships, then you are able to also decipher how that inheritance is split among the family. In order to avoid any drama, in order to avoid any needs, then you need to definitely look into having a prenup, because when you are in love, it's so easy to just be jumping into things and thinking with your emotions. But when the emotions die down, which they inevitably will in marriage if you are in it for the long haul, then you need to be thinking soberly, you need to think strategically, you need to think about your future, you need to think about your children if you are coming in with children from a previous marriage, and you need to think about your business, your assets. If you have property, it's important to cover yourself in every aspect in case things go sour. The statistics show that 50% of marriages end up in divorce. So for me, I just feel like it's wisdom to make the necessary planning before you jump into marriage. Your prenup should definitely have, according to my research, your prenup should have a time span. So the day that you decide to get married, and then it should obviously last until infinitum, so that you are covered for that period. But I think what is most critical, especially for us as African women, is that your prenup needs to be compiled and completed before you start your lobola negotiations, because if your prenup is not done before then, you are automatically married into community of property. You take on your partner's debts, you take on, if you guys have property, then it means you're going to share everything 50-50, liabilities 50-50, etc. So you need to make sure that you make the necessary preparations before the lobola negotiation starts. So assuming that you are also going through premarital counseling, the prenup discussion will most likely come up during premarital counseling if that's the route that you and your partner decide to go, or it's a conversation that you decide to initiate on your own. But whatever route that you decide to go, make sure that all the documentations, all the legalities are signed, sealed, and delivered before the lobola negotiations begin. Otherwise, then it will be a futile exercise. So the prenup is then divided into accrual, with accrual, and without accrual. Without accrual means that whatever property or assets that you came with into the marriage, that is what you're going to leave with, whether it's through death or through divorce. So whatever you own separately, that is your own property. That's your car, your house, your townhouse, your land, your whatever it is that you came into the marriage, that's what you leave with in divorce or death. With accrual is whatever you came with, you keep, and also the asset value of your property or your assets that you have gained throughout the marriage, you also take in the event of a death or in the event of a divorce. So that's a discussion that you then need to have with your lawyer, with your spouse, that both parties are represented fairly so that you can figure out which option will work best. Just through my own understanding, I'm assuming that with accrual would probably be the most beneficial, because you get married, you come in with your townhouse, you come in with your house, you come in with your business. Your business is obviously going to grow, you're going to accumulate income, capital, you are going to expand. So when it's splitsville, or when it's death do us part, when the one goes before the other, you leave with the interest or the accumulation of the assets throughout for the duration of the marriage. Another thing with accrual, it's not only what you came with and the asset value. You are sharing assets or your property based on what you've also built together. It's not just about your separate or your individual contribution. So I definitely think accrual might be the best option, but we definitely need to get a lawyer to guide us through this discussion. The whole purpose of compiling this contract or this prenup is it has to be based on truthfulness. The assumption is that both you and your partner are going to divulge true honest earnings, true honest whatever you own, your property. You and your partner need to be honest about what each person is bringing into the marriage. I mean, for the mere fact that you are married, you want your marriage to be built on one of the pillars, that is honesty and truthful communication. Be transparent about whatever you owe, because there is debt. Not only are you avoiding somebody scamming you out of your house or somebody scamming you out of your business, but you also don't want to be inheriting any debt. So whether it's student loans or business loans, we don't know, or business loans or anything of that sort. You want to get into a marriage with open eyes, knowing exactly what both parties' financial situation is. And then once those discussions have happened, you are able to then draw up a checklist. I recommend doing this obviously with a lawyer. So you get your lawyer, your partner gets his lawyer, and both parties are represented fairly so that nobody feels they're going to be cheated out of what is rightfully theirs when it's time to settle. First of all, list all your assets. Like I said, be open, be honest. Once you've listed all your assets, identify important issues. Your company, is your partner, does your partner have a stake in your business? And should things not work out, how are the two of you going to split dividends, profits, etc.? That could be a very difficult discussion to be having before marriage, but it is a discussion that definitely must be had. Otherwise, it's going to create complications when there is conflict at a later point of the marriage. And then determine your goals, right? Obviously, we're not drawing up prenups with the hopes that we are going to be divorced or that somebody is going to die. Sometimes you can marry into a family that's wicked, and they might want to chase you and your children out of your home that rightfully belongs to you, that you lived in for years with your husband. So you need to really make sure that you are covering all those bases, and you are covering not only yourselves, but you are also preparing and covering the children involved as well. In essence, let the discussion be frank, let it be open. You shouldn't hold back. Obviously, it should be respectful, but I think especially as women, we are sometimes afraid to communicate our desires. We are afraid to communicate that this is what I want, because you're afraid that you might lose the opportunity to get married. But I mean, if this guy or man really loves you, and as a man he should, then be willing to protect you at all costs. Gone are the days where you are relying on somebody else to think for you and to do things for you. As independent women going into an interdependent relationship called marriage, you need to go in there with your eyes wide open. You need to be prepared. And obviously this is not to be negative and unoptimistic. It's just being a realist. Once you've drawn up your list and you've had the discussion with your partner, then you need to go to a civil lawyer, civil union lawyer or a matrimonial lawyer, and the two lawyers or the two attorneys on both parties need to co-write the prenup so that it meets both of the individuals' needs, wants, and everybody is represented fairly. I have read up on some of my research that you can do sort of like a contract on your own, but I think make sure that it's something that will stand in a court of law. You cannot just Google a template for a prenup and think that you are covered. Go to a lawyer. You have to make the necessary investment. It might be tight in the beginning, but let that be part of your planning for your wedding. You already are going to invest into a celebration. So make the necessary preparations and invest in a very good lawyer. And that document has been verified and will stand in a court of law so that you are protected. Do not go with templates on the internet and hope that it's enough that you and him have signed it, because it might not stand. This document needs to be, number one, notarized, needs to be completed before the marriage, both your traditional wedding and before your civil union as well. Be fair, like I mentioned earlier, be open, be transparent, and it has to be a written document, okay? And it should not be illegal or opposed to public policy. C is anything that is not covered in the prenup that relates to custody arrangements. But now, I'm not a lawyer, this is basically what I've read. You need a separate document to protect your children in that regard, and you can inquire from your lawyer and find out what are the options that are available to you if you want to take the further step of protecting your children and sorting out custody rights, especially if you have children from previous marriages, previous relationships. The prenup does also not cover unborn children as well, anything that is illegal. So ladies and even gentlemen, I know it is a tough one and it depends on your value system. Maybe you want to get married in community of property, how you were raised, that's the household value, the values from the household that you were brought up in. But from what I've been seeing, and because I'm now older and I'm getting to that place where I have my own business, it's very important that I protect the legacy for myself, for my children, and make sure that, you know, all the work that I've put in these 6 years and all the work that I intend on putting in the next however many years I have on earth is not going to be stolen from me or taken from me because I was irresponsible with my decision making and I didn't make the necessary preparations. You have got to cover yourself by all means necessary, but I will attempt to get a lawyer to just take us through the intricacies of having a prenup and the importance thereof. But I think I've covered enough. Get a lawyer. And if you know of any good lawyers, black female lawyers in fact, would be ideal. Hit me up on the comments. Thanks for tuning in. Cheers. Bye.